Great. Okay. Mass, New York City, Iowa. All right. Keep adding where you're coming from. We'd love to see it, but I'm going to go ahead and kick off. So first, hello, and thank you so much for joining the Learnsoft and OpenSesame webinar. This has been a work in progress for our two teams to get this up and out to everyone. And we're excited, so excited to have Ashley Brown from OpenSesame with us today. Ashley, thanks for taking the time and also agreeing to do this with me. I'm super excited to bring this to everybody. And I want to just share a bit of a preamble before we kind of dive into the meat of our presentation. So today, what we're going to try to do from a goals perspective is dive into like the real life challenges, obviously not all of them, we only have 45 minutes, faced by learning and development professionals across industries. So if we think about in an ideal world, right, your job, if you're an L&D professional, is to be boosting workforce engagement, right? Hitting awesome retention numbers in terms of your employees, and ultimately really hitting incredible job satisfaction across the board. In reality, as we all know, it often gets caught up in like multiple, sometimes challenging, like technologies, lots of manual work and disconnected systems. All those things can be a bit of a drag and can be really, really tough on your productivity. So as I said, we can't solve all of this in the next 45 minutes. However, I have some good news. We're going to provide some ideas and strategies that we have seen through our work, both at Learnsoft and OpenSesame, to talk about L&D simplification. And we're going to show you how to combine and streamline your course content with the learning platform, which I know many of you have already done. We're going to talk about that, but we want to share a specific instance here, and then hopefully get you back to what really matters, which is helping your team grow and thrive. And with that, I'll do a very quick intro, and then Ashley, I'm going to bump it over to you so that you can introduce yourself as well. But I'm Jen Meyer. I'm the COO of Learnsoft. We're a learning and talent management platform that allows you as our clients to manage, deliver, track, and lead your training and talent management efforts. I've spent over 20 years, I know, dating myself, developing and delivering technical software solutions to enterprise customers, usually in complex and highly regulated industries. So what I'm saying there is just kind of across the board. We've dealt with a lot of different things, both with Learnsoft and in my past career. Ashley, would you quickly give us a quick intro to yourself?
Yes, absolutely. Hello again, everyone. My name is Ashley Brown. I am a senior customer success manager at OpenSesame. And in my role, I actually support many organizations with a lot of the challenges that Jen just talked about and help them achieve and sustain success with their L&D initiatives. I've spent the majority of my career in education in some form, working with both adults and children. And I really enjoy helping people achieve their goals through learning and development. So I'm thrilled to be here with everyone today.
Ashley, thank you so much. And so with that, first, I want to just point out that we're going global with this webinar because we have some folks from India. We have people, and this is not the
Wow.
global piece, but Mississippi, another Canada friend. So again, please type in where you're coming from in the chat. We'd love to hear from you. But the first piece that I'd love to dive into is really the topic of the conversation today, right? How do we approach and look at simplifying L&D? And I'd love to hear, Ashley, from your perspective, what are the things that you think of when you talk to your clients or you talk to folks about what you've done with your background, having taught, having been in the seat, and then flipped over, obviously, to the OpenSesame side? What does that mean to you?
I love the thing that you said as you were opening the webinar, which is, we can't solve this in 45 minutes. Honestly, this is something that I've been working at OpenSesame now for almost 5 years. And my answer to this question changes and evolves because the state of the workplace is changing and evolving. So I think one of the emerging themes, especially over the past few years with people working remotely more and more and having to balance all kinds of stress that they didn't necessarily have to balance pre-2020, is that you need to be able to offer individuals information in a format where they're going to be able to consume it quickly and easily. And so the first point here, breaking content down into bite-sized, manageable chunks, not only does that support retention and understanding, but it also makes learning more approachable, because it's really hard to get even the most motivated employee to feel like they have time to add anything to their plate. So having something that's bite-sized and consumable, sometimes I call it snackable, you'll hear throughout this conversation, I love a good food analogy, that really does not only help people retain information, but help them feel like they can access it in the first place. And then on a related note, making things engaging. So you need to be able to connect with the learner and offer content in a way that they feel like, okay, I want to buy into this. I want to spend my time doing this. That might mean making things interactive so
Yeah.
that the learner's actually doing something as part of the development and they're able to really apply the skills that they're hearing about as they're learning, or offering something like a case study or something that the learner can walk away with, and then thinking about ways to make things interactive, even in a format where a lot of learning is happening remotely or people may not be co-located, offering something like a group discussion, an opportunity to role play, an opportunity to connect something that you're doing asynchronously back to what you're doing in your day-to-day work. These are all things that are going to keep learners actively involved. And then, making things flexible and keeping and making it so that you can do it at the point where you're able to do it. And Jen, I think you were actually going to talk a little bit more about that point.
It was. And Ashley, thank you. And we'll get to that too, because you brought up some good things, because I want to hit that next, which is basically learner engagement challenges. Like why are we doing this? Like, why do we actually want to simplify this process? It's not just because, we're like, hey, this is a great idea. There's actually some key reasons. So I'm going to hit really quickly kind of what I would call that simplification process first, and talk a bit about like disconnected systems, right? When we think about why are Learnsoft and OpenSesame partnering together, at the end of the day, when you walk into a new role and you're handed training materials, how many times, Ashley, have you sat there and you've been given, here's the training materials, and I'm going to access these 3 different systems that are new. Maybe you've used before, maybe you used in a different industry or a different organization, and you're basically trying to figure it out. Right. And it's really tough because you bounce back and forth. You're not sure where the information that you've learned or gathered has basically come back to. And this really, at the end of the day, for L&D professionals, creates challenges for retention, knowledge review, and ultimately employee satisfaction. So having systems like Learnsoft and OpenSesame, which are fully integrated, and you can basically use them in one pane of glass. You're not flip-flopping back and forth. There's a direct API feed, and really it provides a seamless experience for the end user in accessing their learning goals. It's where and when they want to, right? I think that's critically important from that perspective. And then I'll jump a little bit. This is a little bit different, but ties to that retention piece, which is basically, how do you create those clear career pathways? Adding potential areas for employee disengagement where there could be issues or challenges if they have limited visibility into their career pathway, or what do they have to do to be next up for this opportunity? Or candidly, what are those opportunities that they're looking for, and where do they go to find them? So having a platform that provides access, recommendations, and also allows them and the team to search based on their needs and requirements, it really helps a lot. And I'd like to actually tell a story about this one, because we have a great client and they actually ended up implementing the Gallup Q12 enablers for their system. And the reason they did this is because they wanted to basically say, we have incredible content and it is voluminous, right? And tough to get through. So how do you really get people to the things that matter to them? And so basically tying this to the Gallup Q12 enablers in terms of their priorities, employees were able to search on things that were important to them. Things that were mentioned in their reviews were basically be able to directly tie to the content that was provided. So if we're going through the OpenSesame catalog, we know about your search. It's super easy to use. So we can get through that stuff a lot more easily and effectively. And again, that's driving real productivity, which I think is incredibly important. And then the last piece that I just want to talk about in terms of L&D simplification is really about reporting, right? Which candidly is one of the most important pieces, because at the end of the day, L&D teams work so hard in order to be able to tell your story, not only to the people that you're serving, but also to the executive team and externally for potential people to come in and be hired and work on that retention number. We have to really focus on the driving the value for the organization. So you need to be able to share what the team has accomplished, where there's gaps, like if you can identify those, and then basically plug those holes through the L&D program. And then the piece that I think is really, really important is the day-to-day requirements. You get all the stuff, right? Who's registered for the course? Who's overdue? Where do we need certifications? Do we need to go to OpenSesame and find an additional certification that meets our need? And when it comes to reporting, being able to view that holistic program across siloed organizations or groups to the entire organization is really, really helpful. And I think a great value and goal that folks should work towards with reporting is, how do you tie L&D into actionable outcomes, right? How can we look at employee satisfaction, retention, employees' confidence in being able to do their assigned roles? It's one of the key enablers when we think about how do we keep our employees happy and engaged. They're great things to think through when you enable from bottom up and top down reporting perspectives. So saying all of that, because I just talked a whole lot, let's go ahead and flip the script, because what I want to talk about next is really, why are we doing this? What are the big hurdles that we get into when we think about building an L&D program and providing the right content and the right way to do it? So Ashley, do you want to jump in here? So basically talking about, more engaging content.
Yes, absolutely. Sorry, I was just checking the chat just to make sure we didn't have any questions. I think what I notice often when I'm speaking with L&D teams about how to make content engaging, this is an area where going off the shelf can be quite valuable, because what's engaging to one person may or may not be engaging to another person. And so something that I often talk about with L&D professionals that I work with are, what can you do to define what a good learner experience is going to be for your team? Again, I love a food analogy. So I like to think of this as, if you go to a restaurant and what you eat doesn't taste good, you're not likely to go back. And the same is true with learning and development. So if you give someone an experience and their initial experience, or even any experience, isn't a good one, it's going to impede their motivation and make it difficult for them to go back. And so, because I often work with organizations that are utilizing a variety of off-the-shelf options, I tell them to put their time and energy into figuring out what it is that's going to give their learners a good experience, and then how can we represent that in the offerings. This is really related to the second point that you see on the screen, which is that one size doesn't fit all. And so not only do most workplaces have a diversity of languages that are spoken, and it's great if you can figure out a way to meet those needs, but some people are going to want animated content. Some people are going to want something that's a little bit more traditional. Some people are going to want resources they can refer back to. So understanding the diversity of styles on your team and building or finding curriculum paths that reflect that diversity. As Jen was just mentioning, thinking about those clear pathways is something that's really important. And so how can you make sure that those are really, they represent the people who you have on your team?
That's totally true. And I'll add in, obviously, the other piece is, that we're sitting here, if we talk about all this stuff, right, there's a lot of opportunities to, again, connect the systems, make sure that there's those good pathways, really look at this from like a holistic perspective of reporting and moving that forward. And at the end of the day, I think if you can provide that story arc for everybody within your organization, we're all moving towards a central mission and vision of what we want to accomplish. I think that really makes a big difference. All right, I'm going to get us moving a little bit more towards that disconnected system thing. This is something that's obviously near and dear to my heart in terms of what we're looking at. And so if we could move to the next slide, please. Thank you. So what do we think about when we think about the power of integration? I gave you the story of where you walk into the new job, the new role, whatever it might be, and you're like handed that training material and you're like, oh boy, there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of different places to go find things, right? But again, that can be a challenge, but it's a challenge that we can absolutely overcome. And part of the reason why we're here today is that we feel like we are kind of cornering that challenge really well together. And so if your focus is workforce engagement and development, you need technology that supports your efforts, right? You need systems that get out of the way so you can do your job and do your job better. By driving automated and accelerated learning, the OpenSesame and Learnsoft integration empowers organizations to streamline their training processes. This allows like a broader range of training content to be available. We can leverage automation for efficiency gains. I can talk to you in detail about that, about how this works, but basically there's a nightly feed. Courses are updated on the OpenSesame side and they jump right into everything that we're offering and doing here. And so when you log into your learning management platform, all that information is readily available for your users. It allows them to get there faster and sooner. So again, you're improving the learning experience through what I consider like a curated, best in class content that's personalized to the learner. And I think that matters a lot because, like you said, Ashley, we have to meet learners where they are and how they want to learn, whether it's the bite-sized, whether it might be the chunks of information, however that might be. But having those systems work seamlessly together, I think really helps a lot without manual uploads. And you don't have to worry about those course updates, which, by the way, can take a lot of time and energy. This all correlates to how do we get to the pass for upward mobility and how do we track all training for compliance needs, right? Because at the end of the day, there is something that you have to deliver on the flip side in terms of how you're delivering that L&D platform. So if we can, let's go to the next slide. So what I want to talk about again is another live example. So this is another client that we have with OpenSesame, and they basically have on their dashboard when learners log into their LMS, they have a global announcement that basically says, here's a promotion for OpenSesame that is available today. They basically go in as an organization, they make a choice of which course they want to have related to whatever topic is most important to them. Some examples might consider like organization's core values. They've done that before in the past. They have others where they're highlighting themes such as wellness, team building, problem solving. It could be learner development, whatever it might be, management development. And really at the end of the day, this client uses their learning and management system, which is Learnsoft, through compliance training, employee wellness courses, and through the OpenSesame integration, it allows them to have access to like an incredible depth and breadth and quality of content that allows them, again, going back to that personalization piece. And Ashley, I know you can talk a bit about this. It's really important because we need stuff that's going to resonate and allow learners to absorb and get that content so they can be more successful at their roles.
Absolutely. And this might sound like so much work thinking, okay, well, how am I going to find these courses? How am I going to make sure that learners know how to access them? How am I going to go through different options and figure out what styles fit my learners' needs? And so I can't emphasize enough that this is something that we will partner with organizations on. So through the partnership between Learnsoft and OpenSesame, you have access to all of this great content that's at your fingertips, but it doesn't mean that anyone just throws the content at you and wishes you good luck. We really do work closely with you to help you utilize tools that we have built in to figure out the format and style that's going to match your learners' needs. We've got some marketing and engagement resources that I'll touch on later. We will talk through some of the pre-curated curriculum paths that exist. I always say to organizations I work with, the people, the L&D professionals have expertise that you can't get from off the shelf. They know your people, they know your organization, they know your core values. There may be some content that they are best suited to create, but it's unfair to expect the L&D team to be able to create everything from scratch, whether that's a compliance course that, let's be honest, most people don't like making those anyway, or the marketing
They're so
resources.
fun, Ashley. They're so fun.
Or engagement materials, right? No, the L&D team can't do everything. And so the whole point here is that we are here to with the resources and the courses, but we're also here to help you to find a way to help them resonate with your team.
Yeah. So Ashley, before we jump to the next slide, because I know you have a little bit more to share in terms of how OpenSesame works with clients to do this, can we do, Jocelyn, I believe we have a poll ready that basically allows us to ask everyone what their specific challenges are. Because what I'd love to do, I would love to hear from everyone who's on from all across the US and India and Canada. If we can hear from everyone about what are the things that you're facing, what are the impacts that are happening to your organization. So if you would just take a moment to fill this out really quickly, we would really appreciate it. Because what we can do also is hopefully maybe move some of our comments and conversation around that.
Absolutely.
Give it just a few more moments.
Nice that this is multiple choice, but I also wonder if some people would, if given the ability, click on every single one, because I do think that all of these challenges are quite real.
So Ashley, that's actually a good point. Maybe we should say if these are all of your challenges, just throw that in chat, right? Because then we'll at least know we can touch on that.
Or if we missed one, there could be something that there probably is a challenge that you're facing. We do, as Jen said, we want to address this as part of our conversation.
So if we could, let's go ahead and we're gonna close out that poll. I think we've given that enough time for everyone to kind of jump in there. And then if we could move to the next slide, please. We go. All right.
Yeah.
And Ashley, you tell me, you want to see the poll results now?
I think I want to see the poll results. Yes.
Okay. Ooh,
Yeah.
tracking and reporting. Yes. See, my reporting system it's I'm telling you, it's a thing. Okay, that's great. Disconnected systems. Yeah. But look at the numbers. It's
yeah, I mean, this is
right.
like
It's
almost
so
a tie.
close. Yeah, it's so close.
It's
Okay.
almost a tie. And I think a lot of these evolve, I actually thought the invisible career pathways would be the winner just because of conversations that I'm having. But I think to your point that you made earlier, the systems problem is something you're going to encounter that day after day after day. And so if you can't solve that problem, it's always going to be top of mind.
Right. And look, again, you're never going to get one system for everything. At the end of the day, that's just, but there is the ability to integrate. And integrations can be incredibly powerful because it just makes things easier for you as an administrator, as a leader, and then in addition for your users, right? It makes it so less confusing. And they're, again, able to absorb the learnings and not be stuck in that kind of like vicious cycle of like going back between different systems. All right, Ashley, I'll turn it back over to you. Let's talk about the courses that OpenSesame has.
Perfect. And I will address that question that we got in the chat about updating content as part of the overview. So the Open Sesame content marketplace has over 30,000 courses. And I made a little face there. It's because our publishers are actually updating content every day. And to address the question in the chat about does content have to be updated manually? It does not. With the magic of technology and the way that publishers host their content, actually, on the back end, learners are directed to the publisher hosted site, even though you're accessing it through your learning management system. And that way, if a publisher does make an update, it's automatically reflected and the L&D team doesn't have to take on that work. And so you can see the catalog of options spans a variety of areas. The topics in orange are really our bread and butter. They are the key areas that we focus on. We have publishers that are subject matter experts in these areas, and we've partnered with them to bring the greatest content possible that covers whether it's technology, wellness, DEI, compliance, which is the necessary evil that we all have to do. And we also have a curation team. They are subject matter experts and they can do individualized course mappings for customers. So you have the benefit of getting this wide range of topics as well as some of the subcategories that you see in orange, but you never have to look at content on your own if that's not something that you want to do. Certainly it's available. All of these are actually tags in our catalog. So the orange areas that you see, as well as those which just really scratches the surface of the subcategories. It's just what could fit on the slides. These are all clickable filters that you can use to quickly find the courses that you need, but you never have to do that because our curation team is always available to help you get the best of the best that will fit your learners. We can go, to the next slide. So within those 30,000 or so courses, we do have a wide variety of formats. We've talked about this in the opening that people are going to learn differently, but it can be really difficult for a small team to meet that diversity of need. And so within the catalog, you can search by format or filter your results by format, but our courses offer a variety of different modalities. We've got podcast style courses. We have courses that utilize VR. You can even use a headset with them if that's something that's available to you. We've got quite a few text-based resources and just many different things to engage with the learner and help them get the most value possible out of the time that they're spending with learning and development, because we know that time is so valuable. If we move into the next slide, I just want to briefly touch on how we actually help you find those courses, because again, when I work with new customers, a lot of times you get a deer in the headlights look when you say, yeah, you've got over 30,000 courses you can choose from, because no one has time to go through that number of courses. And so one of the most powerful tools we have is something called the Curation Alignment Process Survey. This leverages the power of AI to give you information about the learning styles of folks on your team. So you can invite different individuals from different parts of your business to take this survey and give input not only on what topics they want to learn about or need to learn about for their job, but also how they like to learn. We keep that information on file. We can either put everyone's results together, or we can just look at individual stakeholders depending on who we're curating for, and we use that input to drive the recommendations for content that we give to your team. And then along the way, going back to Jen's point about systems and reporting, we are able to offer organizations information that includes your most used and highest rated courses, your least used and lowest rated courses, and we track all of that information as well, so that over time, as we're continuing to work together, we can look at what's resonating with learners, what isn't resonating with learners, and use that to power our recommendations. And that's also available to your L&D team, so that you can see in real time how are courses being consumed, what topics do people like, what formats do people like, and really use it to improve your learning and development program along the way. So we can go to the next slide. This really takes us back to the conversation about clear pathways. Clear pathways for skill development and career progression are more and more important in the conversations that I'm having with organizations, really, no matter what industry. Two buzzwords that I'm hearing all the time are upskilling and reskilling. Many organizations are struggling with employee retention. And so when someone leaves, they need to be able to quickly rehire someone and get them up to speed on the role. But more importantly, organizations want to prevent people from leaving in the first place and help them feel like they have a clear path to grow within the organization. But it's really hard to do that, particularly when you have lots of different roles. It's hard to do a clear path for each individual role within your organization. And so this is where our pre-curated list can come in very handy. You can see on your screen an example of some of the pre-curated lists that our team has actually made publicly available to anybody who's working with OpenSesame. So you can search anytime we're noticing a trend, whether it's for a specific industry, a trend in L&D, or a trend in the types of requests that we're getting. Our team will put together a list of courses that take a deep dive into that topic and will help an individual who wants to learn more about that topic really progress along the way as they take the courses. And those are available for any organization that uses OpenSesame to either review so that they can see, what are other organizations asking for, what's trending. They can use them for inspiration, or you can actually lift it, you can sync it right into your LMS and make it available to learners. And so it's a way that your L&D team can become more powerful and offer relevant, role-specific, in-depth training without having to reinvent the wheel. And then if we go to the next slide, unfortunately, even with all of these resources that we've talked about and all of the courses that are available and how easy it is to access it within your LMS, the saying, if you build it, they will come, is not true when it comes to L&D. And so now more than ever, you need to, if you're an L&D professional, think about how you're going to inspire people to want to learn, encourage them to continue learning, help them feel like they have time to learn, and that the training that you're offering is relevant. And so over time, we've developed a really comprehensive suite of tools and resources to help you do that, so that, again, you're not having to start from scratch. We have some of the things are just highlighted on the screen here. One of our most popular resources that we come out with every year is our course of the month toolkit. And so we take a few themes that would be relevant for every month during the year. We pick courses from our catalog and we give you email templates, a short kind of digital ad that you can use, whether it's on Slack or Teams or within the LMS or on an internet, social media, you can use to post an image. And that allows you to have a monthly touch point with learners to really hook them into taking training. We also have some theme specific calendars, whether it's a compliance calendar, helping people manage that process, one for HR professionals, DEI, wellness. We also have a newsletter toolkit, learning survey toolkit, many things that we can work with you to implement so that you're making sure that not only do you have the best training, but that your learners are going to know what's there and be excited to access it.
It makes a lot of sense. And from our partnership, I can tell you firsthand, it is super easy. We literally have a nightly feed where the catalog updates and all of that information is there. And if you guys have added something to the DEI profile, it automatically is there for our end users. Hugely helpful, incredible value add in terms of like being able to see that in near real time. And that's a big deal when we're talking about how do we manage the amount of time that we have to create all this content, deliver the content, make sure it's working, and then move from there. So I love it. I love all the stuff that you guys have put together from a content perspective. Ashley, thank you so much for today and for taking the time to do this with us. Before I open up our Q&A, I want to thank the attendees. Thank you for jumping in from all over to join us today. We're hopeful that this is a little bit helpful. At the end of the day, we are going to send some resources. We're actually, I think, Jocelyn might be putting some of this in the chat, but we'll also be sending posts this. We'll get some stuff out to you that are like resources to get you started on these pieces and to allow you to see some real life examples of how this works. And obviously what we'd love to do now, Q&A, you laid out the issues and challenges that you're facing. Is there something specific that you're encountering right now that we might be able to answer in our last few moments together today? So give everyone a second to jump in if they have it. If not, I do have a question for you, Ashley. Once I'll see if anybody wants to jump in first.
Sure. Feel free to even fire away while people may be typing their question.
All right, well, let me do this. Let me ask you this. One of the key things we have found with our clients, how do you work to get the buy-in throughout the organization to move this forward? It's a challenging, sometimes uphill battle, but how do you make that conversation easier and more attainable?
That is a complicated question for sure. I think there are a few strategies that I've seen work well is to really involve key stakeholders in the decision early on, to let them ask questions, and to let them give their opinion on what they think people should be focusing on when it comes to their learning and development. I think whatever it takes to get buy-in from your key leadership, chances are they have something that they want the organization to be focused on. And also making sure that your strategy for L&D is holistic. If it's disconnected and people feel like it's very siloed or this is just a new flavor of the month, you're not going to get buy-in from the upper levels or from the employee level. And so making sure that you're speaking with key stakeholders, key leaders early on, understanding what's important to them, and then outlining an L&D strategy that is holistic and makes sense, I think is really, really something that that I've seen work. I would ask the same question to you though, because I think it is something that's a really common issue. So what would you say it would be an effective strategy there?
I'm so glad you asked, because as you were talking, I was like, I have an answer to this because I've seen this actually with one of our clients. And so what they found is they were new to the organization. They had been doing L&D for years. And I'm using like one example, but the reality was they were able to build a really strong relationship. And this was a healthcare system with the chief nursing officer. And by building that relationship and really understanding the needs of the chief nursing officer, whether it came from certification or where their teams needed to learn. Because if you think about it, like if you're in a manufacturing plant, if you're in a healthcare facility, you're not coming off the floor always to do your training. So is it mobile accessible? right? Can you actually get it to the people where they are and when they are? And then from your point, from a content perspective, how do we get the right stuff to them? And so they were able to build that and, tying it back to kind of their overall mission and vision for the organization, but making sure that it all aligned and having that key stakeholder, that partner champion was absolutely critical to making it successful. And what they saw, so that it's not just pie in the sky story, they saw actually employee satisfaction go up. I think it was by 4.6. It was a very specific number, but 4.6% over the course of 2 years, that's a huge shift in an organization.
Definitely. And it's going in the right direction also.
Right. Yeah, it wasn't 4.6 down, it was 4.6 up. So
yeah.
We actually have two questions here in our Q&A. So the first one, do you have a way to present and capture in-person training? They're a manufacturing plant and employees do not have easy access to computers. We do. So if I can say from the Learnsoft side, this is part of the value. We do have one, we are like, if you have an iPad or some type of tablet, it is enabled. And so you can look at it there at any point in time. We also are mobile enabled. So if they just have their cell phone, they can log into the system and literally take the courses that are assigned to them and that are required to them from the floor, from their car, from wherever they are. And if they need to, they can actually download the course and do that offline, and then it will correlate back through. So all that stuff is available. So I hope that helps answer that one. And then the second one is Learnsoft, the LMS of the company, using OpenSesame content, or is OpenSesame the LMS using Learnsoft content? And I apologize that we did not clarify. So again, obviously, this is a partnership that we have together. Learnsoft is the learning management system and talent management system that our clients use. And we have a full integration with OpenSesame, our partner, to provide some of the best and most robust content kind of across the industry. So that was kind of that. And Ashley, I don't know if you want to add anything else on either of those.
So for the first question with the manufacturing plant, we do hear that all the time. And I think you covered it very well with all of the ways that Learnsoft enables individuals to access training at the point that makes the most sense for them. Just to go along with that, in order to help make that possible, all of OpenSesame's content is mobile enabled. And so we do work with many organizations where people are wanting to take training on their cell phones, or even if they have a few iPads at the company that they can make available and put them on a manufacturing floor in a break room, just again, helping people take training in the way and the time that's best for them. And then for the second question, Jen, you covered it, that Learnsoft is the system, OpenSesame is the content, but through this partnership, you're going, it doesn't necessarily matter if it's not clear to you which is which, because we're working closely together, the two systems are working closely together, and you will have fantastic support from both of our teams, so that our content works seamlessly within the Learnsoft system, and it's very easy for your learners to successfully take training.
All right. I think that wraps up our Q&A. I'm just checking everything. Chat is good. We've got our resources posted there. So for anybody who would like to take a look at them, you can absolutely do that. We are happy to answer any questions post. And as I promised, we will send a follow-up to this so that you have actionable items that you can utilize. Because again, it's great to sit on a webinar and to listen to all of us, kind of talk, but at the same time, to be able to see it in real life, like, okay, we've got a less than 90-day implementation. There's a full integration. It's automatically updated nightly. You have all the information at your fingertips. It's great to be able to see that in real time. So let us know if you have any questions on that as we move forward. And Ashley, again, thank you so much for the time today. Really appreciate it. And a huge thanks to our attendees for actually being here and sticking through the webinar with us.
Such a pleasure. Thank you so much. It was great presenting with you, Jen. It was great getting to hear from people from all across the US and abroad. And I hope everyone has a great day. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, everyone.